Hey guys, good morning. YouTube seems to favor content creators that upload stuff 20 times a week. So I am going to be starting a new video that is specifically just for new releases of InputMapper that has just a rundown of the patch notes and an explanation. Because a lot of times I can't really explain it very well in the patch notes because they have to be short form. So this series will just be every time I push a new version of InputMapper, a brief rundown of what it entails. Um, Probably not going to be a demo in this video series just to keep it simple, because this will be probably a lot more often than when I do the actual weekly update, which will still happen. But the difference with that is I'm going to change that to generally where I address discussions on the forums or questions I've been asked or what plans are for that week going forward, stuff like that. So, that said, we'll jump into this one. I just pushed version 1.7.687816936, and this is still a nightly build, still pre-release, still alpha. We are getting ever closer to an actual beta build where I start packaging it in an installer. The reason why these don't come with an installer is because that is a bit more of a headache and is really meant for versions where there's a lot wider of a gap in between. Anyways, going over these patch notes, the main focus of this build was the DualShock 4 plugin. As you can see here, the first four items are related to it. Light bars are now starting to be enabled in the DualShock 4 plugin, and a few of these changes are related directly to that. The light bar channel is now accessible as a mapping source and destination. I added a couple basic light bar modes into the device, and those are accessible in the same area where the volume slider and the use trackpad as mouse and those settings are in the device screen. And there's a drop down box and you can choose between a couple basic ones right now. I'll add more in the future, as well as bring back the actual light bar profile editor so you can create your own gradients and all that stuff. This is just a temporary placeholder for now. Let's see. The improved device state recognition for the Sony dongle. Um, this is mainly when the device either disconnects abruptly, or disconnects and then comes back to the system. InputMapper was having trouble recognizing it leaving and returning properly. I believe I have fixed most instances and most scenarios. Everything from when it goes into low power state to when you yank the dongle to when you disconnect it manually and yank all that stuff. I think I addressed everything. So at least with the Sony dongle, it should disappear and reappear properly now. If you still have an issue, please let me know, because otherwise I'm considering the Sony dongle now working properly, and I'm going to move on to making sure that it behaves the same way with the Bluetooth. Let's see, improved responsiveness. Excuse me, improved responsiveness on device arrival. I found a bug where it was doing a couple things multiple times. I cleaned that out, and it seems to have improved the responsiveness a little bit. But it does still take a few seconds, at least for the first time it arrives. And it looks like that is because of the audio layer that I added in. It needs to initialize the audio API and its communication with Windows. That should only need to happen once now. Previously, it happened every time a DualShock arrived. Now it only needs to happen the first time, but it still does need to happen. So there is still a slight delay, but it should be less than it was before. Okay, now moving on. RGB color injector mapping connector. This was needed in support of the DualShock 4 light bar modes, and being able to map to and from that now. What it can do is it can take any numeric value and inject that into either the red, green, or blue channel. This can be anything from the battery state to trigger, access, position, anything like that. Anything that is a numeric value can be injected into one of those. And it'll only go into that channel. It won't replace or touch the other channels, so you can stack several different mappings to connect to the different red, green, and blue channels, and they will merge together properly. Or should. If you have any issues, please let me know. Let's see, fixed a bug in the device state merging copying. This is known as the WireNut 48 bug. Pretty much huge oversight on my part. I only ever tested this with one mapping, and it seemed to have an issue where it was copying the state for that one mapping, but after that it lost access to the original state, so it would ignore like all the mappings after that. So that was, I just didn't test it intensively enough to catch that, so he did. Should work properly now. I tested it with a profile that he sent over and it seemed to be working. So again, if you guys have any bugs with that, please let me know, but as far as I can tell, it seems to be working. Global device. I gotta stop doing these in the morning. Global device state lookup table. In my defense, that is a bit of a mouthful. What this is it's pretty much just going to be a table that has the input state, prior input state, output state, and prior output state of every device, both physical and virtual, that is being run through InputMapper. And it'll keep them in a separate lookup table that's cached and can be globally accessible. And what this means is that it'll avoid any need to use any kind of link or lambda or any kind of lookups like that if I need to quickly and rapidly access or set variables. And the point of this going forward is I want to be able to have cross-device communication. Right now, the path is very linear. It needs to go from the input device through the connectors to the output device. So what this will allow is you will be able to now branch out and access these other devices that are outside that chain and either be able to fetch or set variables based on conditions you have set in your mapping or your macros. No current utilization for this yet, but it is something that is going to be needed in the future for things that I've been kicking around. So might as well implement it now and see if there's any performance hits. And there isn't. So everything looks good. So that'll do it for this patch notes. This version that we just talked about is up on the InputMapper beta website. You can get it now. Make sure you go to beta.inputmapper.com. If you don't already have an account there, make one and migrate your current InputMapper account over, especially if you have a premium account. Because as we approach the beta and actual final release stage for InputMapper 1.7, the current website will be replaced by the beta website. So if you haven't migrated your account over by the time that happens, it will require me to I'm sorry, I should have muted that. That now. It will require me to manually update your account if you have a premium. And that can take a couple days, especially if I'm reaching back into records from like 2014 or whatever like that. So please, even if you don't think you're going to do much with it, migrate your account over just so we're sure. Yeah, that's it. I will talk to you guys again if there is another patch notes update that I got to do. Otherwise, I will see you guys Tuesday. Have a good one.